Joining us now, Congressman Jason Smith from House Ways and Means and former White House Deputy Chief of Staff Karl Rove. Okay, we've got to move on to this. Congressman, the hurricane is hitting right as the nation is in a recession. And Wall Street warns the Federal Reserve is literally breaking the financial markets and the U.S. economy with over-the-top rate hikes. What do you think?
I'll tell you, Americans are struggling. They're struggling to put food on their table, clothes on their backs, and gasoline in their cars. And you look at this administration, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, for the longest time, they were denying inflation. Then they were dismissing it, and now they're trying to downplay it just because they have an election 6 weeks from today. They see the writing on the wall. Their spending practices has caused the highest inflation in 40 years, and now they're trying to downplay it. It's unacceptable. But Americans, they see right through it.
Karl, what do you think, to the congressman's point? I mean, we've got Jeremy Siegel of the Wharton Business School. Karl, he's saying the Fed was wrong on money printing, and it's wrong now, that the Fed should not try to out-Volcker Paul Volcker. Wall Street is really alarmed by unusually massive and rapid moves in the bond market. What do you think?
Well, I'm with the congressman. Let's go back to where this came from. Inflation is a result of too much money chasing too few goods. And what did this administration do? It added nearly $5 trillion in demand through additional spending, starting with the American Rescue Plan and most recently ending with the student loan bailout. And so we got $5 trillion more in demand. And today they had a White House meeting. He summoned the senior officials in the government to discuss this. And he said, we're going to have plans to save families money and lower costs. And what did they say? We're going to have airlines required to disclose the extra fees in advance. So when you book a ticket, you know how much more you're going to be charged for your baggage. I mean, really, that's going to offset a lot, I bet, of the $5 trillion in additional demand. So it strikes me we've got both the Fed and the administration off on the wrong track here. The one that we can do something about most immediately is to stop the spending that this administration is engaged in.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a global supply shortage. To Karl's point, we have a global supply shortage. The energy policy of the Biden White House is incredibly inflationary, Congressman, to Karl's point in so many ways. To shut down that supply, too. Paying people not to work during the pandemic, labor shortages. But to Karl's point, Congressman, the president did hold a White House event yesterday on how to save money from inflation after he held a mission accomplished party just 2 weeks ago celebrating the Inflation Reduction Act that Wharton, CBO, Moody says is not going to have any impact. Watch the president yesterday.
Because what's inflation? Inflation is at the end of the month, do you have less money from your paycheck or more money from your paycheck?
Congressman, why is he doing an explainer on inflation? I mean, real wages have gone down the fastest in 40 years under Biden.
This administration is out of touch with reality. Real wages are down 4.3% since Joe Biden's taken the oath of office. Inflation has gone up 13.7% since Joe Biden's taken the oath of office. And why has real wages gone down? Why has inflation gone up? It's because they've spent more than $10 trillion since he's taken the oath of office. This is unacceptable. This is why every American's paying more to put food on their table, clothes on their backs, and gasoline in their cars. And they have a meeting to say, we want more transparency on the fees whenever you go to the airport.
Yeah,
Let me tell you, the people in Southeast Missouri rarely fly, maybe one time a year. They buy groceries. They put fuel in their gas tanks.
I mean, that's what
they're concerned about.
That's what they got is airline fees, Karl, to your point. I mean, Fox News' Chad Pergram, he's also reporting that the January 6th committee is expected to postpone tomorrow's hearing, right? They were supposed to do it ahead of their final report. But then we've got these nickel and dime moves the White House is talking about to deal with inflation?
Well, it's almost laughable. I mean, it just to the congressman's point, it shows how out of touch they are. They pumped all this additional demand in, $5 billion in new spending on top of what was already built into the federal budget. And then they come out and say, we're going to have the airlines disclose the additional fees they charge you when you book. And we're also going to require Expedia and everybody else that books to do the same thing. I mean, would somebody please explain to me how that is going to bring about a significant reduction in inflation, even for airplane tickets? I mean, it's just more transparency and more cost on the airlines because they're going to have all kinds of compliance with some new federal mandate of how they report those numbers.
But
so, I mean,
Yeah, go ahead,
And
Carl.
you made a
finish
really good point about supply. Think about all that they have done to crimp energy supplies. Deliberately, they wanted us to be less dependent upon oil and gas, on hydrocarbons, so they did things that made it more difficult to drill and therefore diminish the potential supply. And now they're doing what? Nothing.
I mean,
nothing of substance.
And it's so, to Carl's point, House Speaker Pelosi is now calling the GOP's, quote, commitment to America agenda, quote, extremist. That's what she's saying. Let's watch this.
Speaker Pelosi is going to be fired in 46 days.
Okay, that was a quick soundbite. Representative Steve Scalise says the same thing, Congressman. What's your take on all the Democrats got is calling their GOP agenda extremist?
The Democrat Party, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer thinks anyone who disagrees with them is extreme. Let me tell you, America is not a socialist nation. We are not supportive of spending our way out of inflation and taxing our way out of recession. We're all about bringing this country back and stopping these uncontrollable policies.
Congressman Smith, Karl Rove, thanks for joining us tonight, gentlemen. It's good to see you.